Well, hey there everybody, a snack box coming to you still here in this dreary, damp day in Atlanta, Georgia. Looking ahead to some beautiful days coming up for us all on the Colorado Trail this summer when we're heading out on our through hikes. I'm very excited to talk about this segment. It's segment 3 of the Collegiate West. This is a really incredible 15.9 mile segment. We've got a lot to do, got a lot to talk about. This is a really high segment. I mean, you're in Colorado, but it's high meaning elevation. So calm down everybody, grow up. So we're talking about the Collegiate West, segment 3. It goes from the Cottonwood Pass trailhead to the Tin Cup Pass trailhead. So it goes up about 3,500 feet and then it descends almost 4,500 feet. So you're actually going to lose about 1,000 feet of elevation over the course of that 15.9 miles. But don't be fooled. The majority of that 1,000-foot descent that you will see overall over the course of the whole distance happens in the last 2.5 to 3 miles of the segment. The vast majority of this segment is going to keep you well above 12,000 feet. In fact, you only dip below 12,000 feet at 2 points, once in the middle of the segment and once at the very end of the segment. So a lot of the advice that I'm going to have for you about the Collegiate West segment 3 is going to center on some basic principles that you should have going into any of the segments moving on throughout the trail when you're going to be above tree line for any protracted amount of time. This is a spot where we talk about exposure. Exposure, for those of you new to hiking, is basically any time when the sun or the weather or wind can get to you really easily and you have no shelter from trees or other landforms that are going to shield you from that. This is a segment where you're going to see a lot of exposure. This means two things. One, it means that you have some different safety considerations that you need to have in mind. And two, it means that you're going to have some of the most beautiful views. So it's a really nice trade-off. I personally think it's worth it, especially if you are super aware of your surroundings at this point. My first piece of advice, this is basic high elevation climbing and hiking, is that you need to stay hydrated. Stay hydrated throughout the segment. Even if you're not super thirsty, you need to make sure that you stay hydrated throughout the course of your hike. Just keep pumping water into your body. It's one of the best ways that you can prevent yourself from getting sick in these high altitude situations. The good news though is that even though I'm telling you to drink a lot of water, you're not going to need to carry a lot of water. From mile 2.1 to 6.2, there's about a 4-mile dry zone where you're not going to have a refill of water. But after that, for the rest of the segment, for the most part, you're going to have pretty consistent, reliable water throughout. So drink up as much water as you can. Whenever you stop to fill up, say you get a liter of water or a quart of water, I guess this is, I don't know what it is. When you fill up your water bottles, then it's also a great time to go ahead and chug some water, get some water in your belly, carry some water in your bottle, and then keep moving from there. You can make some great time through the segment because even though it's high elevation, there's not as much rise and fall as you would expect elsewhere. Got some people running around making a lot of noise. I guess we'll just keep going. They'll just keep running and screaming. If that's how we're gonna live our lives, that's how we're gonna live our lives. The next piece of advice that I have for you through this segment is that as the day progresses and you get closer and closer to that 1 or 2 o'clock window, it's a 15-mile stretch with about 12 to 13 miles above tree line. So it's not always possible that you're going to be past this segment by lunchtime. The ideal situation would be that you'd wake up early and you'd move to lower elevations by about 1 or 2 in the afternoon when the lightning storms tend to move in. That's not always realistic given that this is such a long segment, and given wherever you started that morning, you might actually just enter this segment in the middle of the morning and you still need to put in those miles. So with that in mind, my second piece of advice is that you should, especially at lunchtime, start scanning for exit routes. Start looking for patches of lower elevation that if a storm pushed in really quickly, you could dip off of the trail, find some lower elevation where you can be safe, ideally still within eyesight of the trail, because you don't want to go off trail and then get lost. You want to make sure that you dip off the trail, you get to lower elevation, so if lightning pushes in, you're not in any dangerous spot from there. It's just a good idea at that point to be mindful of that. It's also worth knowing that you're going to start the segment above tree line there at the Cottonwood Pass, and you're going to need to make your way down from there. So some of you will be coming back in from Buena Vista, maybe you hitch back in after a day, and you maybe can't get a hitch until 10 in the morning. So just be really cognizant of this. You'll be able to do it. People make this hike routinely and do a really good job with it. You're no different. You're going to make it. And finally, my last tip for this segment is pay very close attention to the wind at this point. If you don't have chapstick in your bag, make sure that if you take a 0 day or you head into Buena Vista, pick up some chapstick, pick up something to protect your skin, because windburn can be a really big thing here. It can also really accelerate your loss of water if you're sweating, because it's going to pull that water off of you. So pay close attention to wind. You don't want to get a windburn at this in this elevation. A lot of times we focus so much on sun protection, which is very important at this elevation, that we forget about the wind protection, but that wind protection is really important here as well. This is a great time to consider having one of these long sleeve sun shirts that they sell. those would be a great option. Don't overlook the idea of a long sleeve synthetic shirt to keep the wind off of your arms as well. That can really zap you, and especially your face. Keep a close eye on your nose, your ears, and your lips, because these are places where the wind burn tends to get you. Pay really close attention to that, because this is one of the most spectacular segments of the entire trail, and you don't want wind burn distracting you from this epic adventure that you're having at this point. It's also worth knowing that this segment ends at the Tin Cup Pass Road, and this is where a lot of 4x4s and four-wheelers come through, so that's good to know for people if you have an emergency and you need to get off trail. But it's also good to know that you probably don't want to camp really close to the end of this trail, because you will be hearing those four-wheelers and side-by-sides and 4x4s all day if you are anywhere in that area, or they will wake you up in the morning as well. So give yourself a couple mile buffer from the end of the segment. Either plan to go past it a mile or two, or plan to stay in this segment a mile or two from the finish before you set up your tent. That way you can sleep in peace and wake up at your own pace. But you will have a little bit of a road walk where you're going to have to contend with them later on in the start of Collegiate West 4, which, side note, has my favorite stretch of the entire trail. It's really great. That Tin Cup Pass, I think, has some really great spots, so get excited about it. You're making your way through the Collegiate West. You're almost through the entire Collegiate West at this point. Super amped for you. Really excited about this hike. I'm really excited about getting out there myself. So let's talk a little bit here about liking and subscribing. You know the drill. If you found this information helpful, please click like and subscribe so I can keep you up to date on each segment as they come out. I'm trying to put one out every 3 or 4 days, so I'm gonna have 2 out this week. That's pretty exciting. And also, if you find me on Instagram, at Backcountry Champion. You don't even have to follow me on Instagram. You just send me a message, tell me where to send one of these sweet outside comfort zone stickers. I'd love to get one to you so that you can take it on your adventures with you this summer, or whenever you go on adventures. And it's just my little way of saying thank you for the support over the growth of this channel. I'm really excited about the little community that's building, and I'm grateful for all of you who are commenting. Thank you all so much. I'm looking forward to talking to you more about the Collegiate West, and maybe even making some recipes. If you haven't checked out my video on polenta, go check it out. I think it's kind of funny. And they do too. I don't know if you can hear it, but we've got some people screaming and laughing over here, which is, what do? You know, that's life, right? All right, everybody, this is Snackbox out. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.